Hey Titans, welcome to another weekly live session. And today I'm excited to announce that we have Titan Master Waite as our guest in this week's session. Hey Robin, how are you doing in these hot temperatures?
Yeah, it's sweltering. It's okay. I've had my windows open. I was kind of leaving it till the last minute to close them up, but 28 degrees in my studio. I think it's going to get hot, definitely.
It's going to get hot. That's good. So today, to be clear for everybody, Robin is the founder and owner of Fearless Biz, and he is really an expert in packaging and pricing. And we have also a mini course from him up on Titanology, so you can check that out as well afterwards. But today we're going to talk about pricing. Pricing, yeah, your offer, your packages, your products, your services, and how you should go about that. And yeah, Robin, take it away.
Thank you. I don't know. Are you? There we go. Great.
Yeah.
You've got the slides up. Fantastic. So, yeah. So, just very quickly, just there's a little bit of a background about me. I think it's always useful to get to know the speaker rather than sort of be blasted with information straight out the starting gate. So, give you a chance to sharpen your pencils and get your notepad ready. But no, I'm a also dedicated husband and father to two girls. This is quite an old picture. My girls are 7 and 5 now, but and a mad keen, not a particularly good one, but mad keen surfer, and I also like my cycling, so I'm out most weekends on my bike or in the water somewhere, and those waves in the background are about 6 foot tall, albeit you wouldn't know that because it's a matter of perspective. It looks quite small there, but yeah, I like the big stuff when I can. I'm not particularly good at it though. For my sins in my past life, I used to run a marketing agency from 2004 to 2016 before we set up Fearless Business, and that actually was the trigger that being in that agency was the trigger for stepping away from it and starting the coaching practice in the first place. And there was one particular incident which was all based around how our clients, our customers in that marketing agency at the time, perceived me and the agency which I ran, which was very successful. We were doing about 250k pound sterling turnover each year. I had a small team of 4 people. But one day, one of my clients introduced me to 2 prospective clients at a networking meeting, not as the systems and web guys, as it says there, but as his web bitch. And that made me realize in that one particular moment that, he was kind of joking, but those prospective clients didn't take too kindly to the label that he put on us. And one of them even questioned it. He's like, really, you're going to take that? And I thought, well, actually, the reality was we had sort of close to 200 clients in that web business, website design business. And we were their dog's body. We just, we were at their whim and their every command. And we just did everything pretty much that they told us to do. And I realized at that moment, in that moment with that particular person, that had a whole lot more to offer. And there's a couple of things that we did in that business, which was around sort of productizing our services. So web design and branding are 2 very traditional sort of time for money sort of businesses. And we'd managed to create with our products and services, we'd actually managed to create these really great one-day branding workshops. We were able to charge treble the going rate that everybody else was charging in the local area if you were to look at hourly rates and things like that. And I'll be going into all of that during my talk. One of the things, though, was that I wanted to actually transform the way that people thought about the creative spaces, the creative industry, so graphic design, web design, and all of those good things. And so I put everything that I knew into my first book, Online Business Startup. My thing is also about having a lot of fun within the business as well. I was doing, there you see me with my little shirt on, looking very smart and prim and proper. But for me, I'm a t-shirt and jeans guy, and I was never able to kind of bring that out in my creative agency days. So that book was a bestseller for the best part of 2.5 years, sold 15,000 odd copies, I think. I've gone on to write several other books, most notably Take Your Shot, or more recently, which has got about 500 plus sort of 5-star reviews. To give you a very quick outline, because it's worthwhile having the context. We're going to be talking about pricing today, but it's worthwhile seeing the context, how it fits in with the other 2 core pillars of what we do. So we actually have 3 core pillars within Fearless Business, which sort of top and tail the pricing side of things, which obviously we'll be going into in a lot of detail. The first one being product architecture. So as Stefan alluded to, it's about making sure that you've got a really well-structured packaged products. Or typically what I like to see is 3 to 5 core products which satisfy 90% of your audience's needs. When you're doing too many things, you're all things to all men, jack of all trades and master at none. So we like to make sure that we've got a really tight suite of products within our product architecture. Pricing, obviously, we'll go into more detail. And then we also focus on something called lead flow. So once you've improved your product and it's much better, but also it's going to be much more expensive once you've learned about the pricing stuff we're going to go through today, you also need to learn how to sell it and reduce friction in the sales process. So we also cover off like the lead flow side of things, but that will save for another time, I think. Couple of little gifts which I've got. So first of all, you see the blue book over my shoulder, Take Your Shot. You can request a copy of that. The links are all to the book. If you want to download the slides, you can head on over to fearless.biz/gifts. And you can download all of those good things. If you're in the UK, I'll actually post you a copy of Take Your Shot. If you're a bit further afield, it'll be a PDF, or you can send me an ethical bribe and I'll sign and post a copy overseas if you're lucky. One of the first things though that I always like to say is that like there's a lot of stuff which I'm going to unload during the presentation, and Stefan, you're going to have to stop me. Stefan knows me. When I get excited, there's 2 things that are going to happen. 1, I talk really, really quickly, and 2, I occasionally swear. I have a bit of a potty mouth. So Stefan's going to be our steward here and make sure that, you know, I'm not going too quick and I'm not swearing too much. And maybe we'll have a swear kitty. I'll put some money in a charity tin if I use too many words. But the thing is, when I'm going to give you a lot of concepts very, very quickly here. And I only want you to like have a notepad and pen ready and just take down 2 or 3 of them. And these are all practical, tactical things that you can implement in your business pretty much today that will create a positive impact from how much money you charge for your products, around your mindset and your confidence around how much you're charging for them, and increasing the profitability within your business. So let's dig into it. So this is an amazing quote by Seneca. We suffer more in imagination than we do in reality. So the most common objection I get when I invite people to increase their prices is, well, if I put my prices up, then I'm going to have fewer clients. Nobody will buy my products. And I've worked with hundreds of business owners now, and we've proven that is just not the case, okay? Typically what happens is we're like a 10 out of 10 up here in terms of like people just won't buy our products. When we go out and take those to the market and we start getting feedback, all of a sudden that fear diminishes down to like a 2 or a 3, and there will be a few people who will push back and won't like it. But that means our product's not for them, and that's okay. We want to turn away more clients than we're actually taking on, okay? So tune into this quote, but also remember, things are always much worse than imagination and reality. We'll always put blocks up for ourselves. It's worthwhile remembering there are 3 sort of main mechanisms in terms of growing a business, alongside obviously pricing being one of them. The first one is the accountant's favorite. And actually this was, I dismissed this actually until the pandemic kicked in. I was never a fan of cutting costs, because typically when you kind of cut costs, you could maybe save yourself 5 or 10%. You can take whatever you save and reinvest it back into your business and put it into marketing and things like that. But in my view, it's a very slow way if you want to grow a business, it's a very slow way to grow a business. Don't get me wrong, like there is a place and a time for cutting costs, the pandemic being one of them, obviously, because there was so much uncertainty around, we needed to cut back. But hey, I think now we're kind of pretty much through that business-wise. The businesses that are left or starting up, you've got a great opportunity now. The market's not as saturated as it was before, because there's always this shift in the job and business market whenever there's some kind of recession. But yeah, this is the accountant's favorite. I'm not a big fan of it. It creates slow growth. The second one, and this is the most popular one, and this is what most of you will be doing, is essentially selling more of the same product than what you're selling at the moment, i.e. you're doing marketing, okay? Now I'm going to highlight this to you. I just want to illustrate the perfect customer journey, okay, to you. So think about your business for a second. you have probably reached out to all the gurus and experts and listened to podcasts and watched tons of trainings and all this sort of stuff. All of the marketing advice that you've ever done, you've implemented it down to the T. You've created the perfect marketing strategy for your business. And you've got this, as you can see on the screen, this queue of clients waiting to shower you with money and sign up to your product or service, right? And most of you are probably thinking, do you know what? Actually, no, I have spent an awful lot of money on marketing and listened to all the gurus and experts. And no, it's not predictable. I don't have that queue of people queuing up for me. And I can highlight this in 5 very simple steps. So if you're watching this, I want you to follow these 5 steps. So this is like the ultimate marketing strategy for your business I'm going to show you. And this will illustrate why this perfect customer journey that you're all seeking for from a marketing perspective just doesn't exist, okay? And I know this talk is about pricing, but you need to understand some of these principles in order to understand why pricing has the greatest impact when it comes to growing a business, okay? So what I want you to do is, step number 1, pick up your phone, okay? Then I want you to go to across to your favorite web browser. So in this case, it would be amazon.co.uk. or .com or whatever. So open up Safari, go to Amazon, step number 3, go to amazon.co.uk, type in Take Your Shot into the search bar. Bearing in mind, I'm also going to give you a free copy of this, plus a whole load of other gifts as well, plus you've had this presentation, so just bear with me. Type in Take Your Shot, and I want you to go and buy the Kindle, okay? Now, there'll be some of you who will have absolutely no problem following those 5 simple steps in my perfect customer journey, my perfect marketing strategy, and they'll be able to go through and they'll be able to buy the book and download it, and away we go. But typically, when I do this in front of a group of, 100 people, 200 people, 1,000 people, where I've done this talk, about a third of the people typically can buy it, no problem at all. There's a small subset of people who go, what? I'm not going to buy a Kindle just because you stand up here and tell us to buy it. Despite the fact that Stefan trusts me enough to put me in front of you in order to deliver this talk to you and all this good stuff, you still don't trust me enough. So there's this tension happening already in terms of know, like, and trust. You just won't buy it. There's some people who they can't connect to the internet on their phone. Maybe they can't open up the Amazon app. Maybe they don't own a Kindle. Maybe that they managed to buy it, but they can't download it onto their Kindle, so it doesn't work. Despite the fact that Amazon have spent billions of dollars on this platform, making it like one-click purchase to download. So, despite the fact I've given you this perfect marketing strategy, 5 simple steps to buy my product, many of you won't have actually been able to do that. So this is why marketing is fundamentally flawed, and this is what's created tension in the marketplace. Our perception is marketing is super easy, and that we follow the advice and all the gurus, and everything's world at our fingertips, global marketplace, and we should be able to make millions of pounds in our businesses, but we simply can't, because technology doesn't always work for everybody. Trust is an issue for many people. Some people they don't have a Kindle, so we're trying to sell them a product that they're never going to be able to engage with or do anything with. Okay, so that tension is there, and if all you're doing is trying to get more and more and more clients into your business, you're fighting against that tension. So, and don't get me wrong, marketing, I ran a marketing agency. I do marketing in my business. I believe in marketing. I'm just saying, don't make it the thing that is going to grow your business. Don't make that don't place all of your attention on that. The other thing as well with the marketing side of things is that, as part of that tension, most people aren't able to articulate the value. They're not able to give a strong enough, compelling reason as to why somebody should buy your products. Okay, so think about it this way. If you download a Take Your Shot in the next 24 hours, and I could guarantee that would make you £1 million in the next 7 days, most of you would be you would do whatever it takes to go and download that book and read it and implement the tips and do whatever I told you in order to guarantee that £1 million. So there is this heaven if you can do this thing, but the hell if you don't is harder for people to explain, and we don't like going there. So the reality is, and this is where you get into okay, so this is a very important point. I always when I say something profound, I always like to warn people about it. Okay, most people don't like going into the hell if you don't. Okay, because we want people to like us. And if we start reminding them of all of the shit that is going to continue to happen in their lives if they don't buy our products, we think that is going to repel people. And yes, truth is it will. But there are also some people who need the harsh truths. they need a bit of tough love. And this is all relevant to pricing, because it's all about how you go about articulating your value. So if, for example, like take business coaching, for example, obviously that's what I do now with Fearless Business. If I were to say, somebody comes along and they say, oh, they're stuck at earning £20,000 a year and really struggling to grow their business. And like, you know, it's getting to a point whereby they may even end up getting divorced because they focus so much attention on the business, they've forgotten about their family and stuff like that. It's actually my job to show them the hell if they don't do this, that if they carry on doing it the way that they're currently doing it, that they could end up poor, destitute, homeless, single, and all the rest of it, which I know sounds like dire, and it's going to be, that's like, I've given a really poor example, but you get a picture. It's going to be horses for courses, basically, different horses for different courses. But you need to be able to show both sides. You can't just talk about how amazing you are and the upside of if people buy from you. You've also got to show people the downside of if they don't buy from you. And that's all in that value, like being able to articulate your value, okay? And that really is what marketing is about. Marketing isn't buy my shit, buy my shit, buy my shit. It's here's what's going to happen if you buy it. Here's what's going to happen if you don't. And be very honest about that. And so what we end up seeing is this. Like most people with their marketing, they're just spraying marketing shit all over their prospects. I think I'm in for about £15 in the swear kitty, Stefan, so far. I think I've said shit now 4 times, so maybe it's £20. So yeah, so we've got all of this, you know, we're just poor marketing out there, and like we're deluged, like we're just engulfed by it all, and it makes us all feel a bit icky. So like marketing is not the way to grow a business. This is the way to grow a business, okay? Selling the same product or a similar product, maybe a slightly improved version of the product for a lot more money, not just 5 or 10%. I'm talking about double, treble, quadruple. We've even had clients who have 10x the price of their products and been able to continue selling them to their clients because they were underselling themselves by that much, okay? So this is what it looks like for most business owners, especially if you're focused on marketing. It looks like this: sell, deliver, sell, deliver, sell, deliver, sell, deliver, sell, deliver, sell, deliver. Oh, we get burnt out. We go away on holiday. We stop selling. We stop delivering. Deep breath. We come back from holiday. We get better. Right. More. Sell, deliver, sell, deliver, sell, deliver. And I don't know about you, but my definition of success is not going round in circles. Okay. The other thing you'll notice as well, like time is very compressed because you're selling so much to so many people and having so many conversations. Like you have so little time left to be able to deliver any kind of real quality. So on the back end of it, over here, you end up making, you know, you make a little bit of money here and a little bit of money there, but it never really kind of meets the need. And in part, that's because, especially with service-based businesses, most people, when they start up a service business, they go, I work for 8 hours a day, 28 days, 20 days a month. So I've got 160 hours that I could potentially work. So I do 160 hours times by £50 an hour, and therefore I should earn 8 grand. You know, that's the rough calculation. But what they don't realize is that there's actually 3 moving parts within the pricing model. The first one is that around your actual implementation, like fulfillment. So when you deliver and you get paid the £50 an hour, but we only have about a third of our 160 hours, so 50 to 60 hours a month, where we can actually earn the money that, you know, we're charging for. The second one is intellectual property, which most people don't factor into the calculation, okay, which doesn't take up any extra time, but all of the stuff which you've learned, all of the case studies, the reviews and testimonials you've got, and all the practical, like the stuff you've implemented, that factors into the equation as well. And the third thing, which has the most impact on time, is overheads, costs. So you start to put in time for sales, time for marketing, time for traveling to and from seeing clients, time for doing your books and your accounting, time for all of the different things in your business. So actually, like, you'd end up spending 100 hours to support a 50-hour business, if that makes sense. You know, and so most business owners, if you're charging £50 an hour, you could actually triple the price. Now you're getting fair market value. The extra 3 times the price goes into paying off intellectual property and costs and overhead. So actually, but the reality is though, when you charge more, and you notice one of the really interesting things here, when you charge more, you need fewer clients. So you now have more time to deliver a better quality product to the clients. And if you've set your business up well with a solid product architecture model where you've got really great follow-on products, you actually get then paid more money on the back end of it. So your customer lifetime value grows. So, you know, fewer clients, more money, more time, more money on the back end. So it's like a win-win-win. Like, why wouldn't you put your prices up? And one of the great things is there's actually two different types of clients now. So the first type of client is your existing clients. Now, this is where there's the most friction. Okay, so they've already been exposed to your prices. They, when you tell them you're going to put your price up, oh god, because you've anchored them to a specific price point, so they push back. But there'll be a certain subset of them that will get your value. They love what you do. They're raving fans, and they'll might be a bit resistant, but they'll go with you because they understand that you need to put your price up to cover costs, to cover intellectual property. But there's a second type of client, and this is your greatest opportunity, okay? New products that haven't yet been exposed to your business, that haven't yet been exposed to your existing prices, or if you increase your prices, they haven't been exposed to those prices either. Remember Seneca, things are much worse in imagination than reality. When you're sat there thinking, I can't possibly put my prices up because my clients will leave, that creates fear creates tension, and then that pushes you backwards into a place of safety, which means keeping your prices the same. There's no growth, okay? You would admit the only way to grow is to make more money, and that means by charging more. But with those new prospects who haven't yet been exposed to your pricing, there's this huge opportunity. And we've seen people, once they get it, it happens very quickly. It's like a 4 to 6 week journey which they're on, where they could double or triple their prices, which you potentially could go on as well. Now we'll start to get into the guts of like the pricing side of things. Okay, so there's I guess there's more than 3 common pricing mistakes. I'm going to go through the 3 most common pricing mistakes. The first one is charging what everybody else is charging. Okay, so if Stefan is looking at Dave, Dave's looking at Trisha, Trisha's looking at Tarquin, Tarquin's looking back at Stefan. In terms of who's charging what, which one of those 4 people is actually an expert on pricing? Well, the reality is none of them are. Everybody's looking at each other to try and figure out how much they should charge, okay? Now, all of the experts, they'll tell you to go and look at the competition, and trust me, yes, that's the right thing to do. It's a good thing to do. However, the mistake is assuming that what your competitors are doing is going to work for your business, okay? So think about it this way. Imagine when you see supermarkets doing price wars and they're all slashing their prices to sell specific products. We all know that they're operating at a loss. Now, supermarkets can do it because they've got 10,000 other products in their supermarket that they're selling that will overcome, and even the brands have a multitude of different products, and they will have cash reserves there. So they've got the money, the buying power, and the resources to be able to offer massive discounts to put their competition out of the market. Small business owners don't have that, though. There's not many small business owners out there that can operate at a loss for a significant amount of time. So think about it this way. If your competition is selling a product or service at a specific price, they could actually be selling that at a loss. Their business might not be making any money, and you're about to go and copy that business model that's not making any money. It just didn't make any logical sense, okay? So the answer is to set prices for your business economically that are going to stack up for you. So I'll give you an example of this. Let's say for example, you this is a slightly different example, but let's say, for example, your goal was to earn $100,000 a year in your business, okay? And you initially thought, oh, well, I'll sell my widgets for $1,000, whatever your product or service is. So we want to earn 100,000. We're going to sell our widgets for $1,000. So then I'd pose the question to the business owner and say, well, have you got the capacity to deliver 100 of those $1,000 widgets to get you 100K? Quite often they go, oh no, I haven't possibly got that amount of capacity. Our capacity is only 20 widgets this year. Okay, well, 20 widgets at $1,000, that's not going to achieve your goal. It's not going to cover your costs. It's not going to generate you enough profit. You're not going to be able to pull any money out of this. So we have a couple of options. One is, well, how can we sell more $1,000 widgets? And again, for most businesses, they don't have the resources, the team, or the money available to be able to hire a load of people in to go out and sell 1,000 widgets. It's just never going to work. Sorry, 100 widgets at $1,000. So the only real option we've got is, well, how can we create a product worth 5 times the value? How can we turn our $1,000 widget into a $5,000 widget so that it meets our capacity and we can get away with selling 20 of them and still achieve our $100,000 goal within our business, okay? So we have to set our prices based on what is economically going to stack up for our business. It's really, really important to remember that. I'll give you another little example. So this is Richard and Amy. They run a small WordPress development and hosting business. When we first met, they were charging £8 a month for support, like for their basic care plan. They had about 120 clients, so they weren't doing terribly. They were making some money, but their goal was to earn £3,000 a month, so that they could take the summer holidays off, spend it with their young kids, without having to take on any new clients. So I said, okay, so as a rough calculation, you need 400 clients. Can you cope with 400 clients? No, you can possibly cope with 400 clients. It's ridiculous. We're bursting at the seams with this many 120 clients. So I said, great. Well, we need to put your prices up then. Or how could you manage that many clients? Or we could take some people on. It's like, well, 3K a month, you're not really going to be able to afford to take many people on, if at all, anybody. Especially as Richard could only cope with 100, he'd need like 2 or 3 of him to replicate that. So we were left with no choice. We put the price up by £50 a month on their basic care plan. They immediately, and there's 3 stats I want you to remember here, they immediately lost 40% of their existing clients. Disaster. But on the flip side to that, their revenues went up 2.5 times. Okay, so we lost 40% of our 120 clients, so a third of them. Our revenues went up 2.5 times, and pretty much overnight. And then the pixie dust moment, their support calls dropped by 80%. Okay, so what that means is the clients who valued them the least, who left, took all of their problems with them. They're moaning and whining and, picking up the phone every 5 minutes and asking Richard for, the moon on a stick. And so they got all of this time back, which they could then deliver a better, more substantial care service to their clients. So it made a massive difference. The second mistake is charging time for money. Okay, so if you are charging hourly rates or day rates, you're doing it all wrong. In fact, what you're doing is potentially unethical. And I know that's a very strong statement, okay? So I'll give you a couple of scenarios here. Imagine we've got 3 web developers. Okay, I'm just going back to my agency days, so I'm going to talk a lot about web design. Imagine we've got three web developers, okay, and they're all going to build websites. So so Dave is the first one. Dave comes along. He's not been doing it for very long. And he says, I reckon I can do that. Build that website for you in 20 hours and it'll be £50 an hour. So about £1,000. Eventually he goes away, comes back. Here's your website. And I go, oh, Dave, hang on. You haven't put the blog on there that I wanted. You haven't put the shopping cart on there that I wanted. Where are those? I thought we agreed those to be included. He says, oh, well, yeah, I'll add them in, but you've used up your 20 hours. So I can put them in, but it's going to cost you another 10 hours. Is that okay? Now, most of us, if we got an unexpected extra £500 on the bill, we'd be like, no, that's just ridiculous. But also, Dave hasn't been doing it particularly long, so the websites he delivers, they're not particularly good looking. They don't really get great results. They don't get found on Google. They don't produce leads. Okay, so that's Dave. £1,500 for his website, albeit it was originally £1,000. Now it's like an extra 50% more. And most of us are ethical, moral, upstanding human beings. We wouldn't just tag on an extra 50% onto our bills like that. We would carry on with the work and finish it off. But now I'm annoyed, Dave's annoyed. It's not really the best relationship. Okay. So second person comes along, Steve comes along. Now Steve's been doing web design for ages, but he doesn't know what Robin knows about pricing. He's also charging £50 an hour. But within a week, he comes back and he says, here you go, Robin, here's your website. It's got a blog on there. It's got your shopping cart on it. It can be found on Google. It generates a few leads for you. It only took me 10 hours to put it together at £50. Hang on a minute. So the guy who does a better job, who's more experienced and does it faster, ends up getting paid less. That just doesn't make any sense. And believe it or not, there are people out here who are brilliant at their craft and massively underselling themselves, like Steve does, okay? Just like Steve does. Okay, so already we're starting to see this imbalance. Now, here's the crunch. This is about how you go about articulating your value, okay? So then Trisha comes along. She's a website ninja. She's worked with Robin on Fearless Business and gone through understood how to charge more, how to package things up, how to articulate her value, how to sell better and reduce friction in the sales process. She knows she doesn't need many clients, so she's got nothing on the line here. But she says, listen, I'll build you a kick-ass website. I can do it in 24 hours. It will generate you guaranteed 10 to 15 solid leads for your coaching practice each and every month. Okay. Now the price for my websites is 10K. But if after 30 days it's not producing 15 leads a month for you, I'll give you a full refund, Robin, and I'll refund you £1,000 for wasting your time. Now, I don't know about you, it's a chunk of change for a website, but I'd go with Trisha, because if she can guarantee her results and get me 15 leads a month, which is not beyond the realms of possibility, but if she's that good and she believes in her wares that she's that good, she can charge 10 times the going rate of the other people, because I know how much those leads would be valued at for me. So that's why I believe, time for money just does not work. It's a broken system. You need to productize, package up what you're doing, and learn to sell, learn to articulate your value, learn to sell better. The final mistake is discounting your core product. So I'm going to kind of go through this fairly quickly, because I know I'm just wary of time as well. The average business, you need to understand what your gross profit is, but most people assume that if I offer a 10% discount, I need to just sell 10% less of the same product in order to make the same amount of money. The reality is, though, where the money falls down through your profit and loss account, it gets eaten up by overheads. There's this compounding effect, okay? So the reality is, like, if you just have a 5% discount, depending on what level of gross profit, wherever you're at gross profit wise, if you just offer a 5% discount on a low gross profit, 30% gross profit margin, you've got to sell 20% more of the same thing. If you offer a 10% discount, you've got to sell 50% more of the same thing to make the same net profit on the bottom line. So discounts erode profitability. Now, there is one exception to this rule around discounting. So the rule is, never discount your core products, the one which makes you all of your money, okay? And certainly never discount your follow-on products, because that's what builds customer lifetime value. But you can offer a one-time discount as an attraction offer off something which is small. So let's think about an example. So I don't know, imagine a therapist might offer 40% off the first session, for example. So let's say their sessions are £100 or $100. They offer 40% off. So it costs them $40 to get that client through the door to have their first session. We know that if we can speak to a client, we've got a higher chance of converting them into a paying client. But the mistake a lot of people make is, oh, well, if I sell, a batch of sessions to if a client books a batch of sessions with me, I'll give them a slight discount to say thank you. Well, actually, if that person went and, I don't know, bought £1,000 worth of, I know 40% is extreme, but £1,000 worth of coaching, 10 sessions, and you offer them a 40% discount, well, that's just cost you $400, not $40, but $400. So discounting on your core product massively erodes profitability. But the caveat is, do a discount, a special offer, do a discount attraction offer to get somebody in through the door, but on a one-time purchase. There's this thing about the dirge of Facebook as well, like never give your prices away on Facebook or in email. The only time you should ever give somebody your prices is on a phone call, okay, on a Zoom call. Because the reality is, like, when it gets into objection handling and stuff like that, if somebody's shopping around on Facebook, they're not a good buyer. Basically, they're not going to be a good customer. And I've seen people giving away prices, and I even challenged some clients on this when I first sort of started out, because they were it was like a beauty therapy business. She was just giving away her prices all the time and wondering why nobody was buying. Well, because people were shopping around and said, listen, let's spend a month doing it your way. Let's spend a month doing it my way. I want you to book people into calls to get them booked into your salon. She was really hesitant, but she went along with it. And when we did it my way, getting people onto a call, our conversion rate went up 40%. And the reason for that was, when you're on a call with somebody, you can build rapport, you can gain their trust, you can educate them about your products and services, you can tell them how your processes work, and you can explain to them why your value is what it is, okay? And when you've got somebody's trust, they're more likely to buy it. It's as simple as that. And you cannot do that in Messenger on Facebook. So never give your prices away on Messenger. Never quote people prices in an email. Always, always, always close clients on a call. I'm going to skip through this slide just for time, expediency of time. And I know that Stefan wants to jump on and do a quick Q&A with me at the end as well. So I'm going to rattle through this in the next sort of 5 minutes or so, and then we'll jump into sort of questions and things like that. And I was just going to check if we have any comments come through yet. I'm not sure we have. So there's this notion of pricing bandwidth. Most people see pricing as what I call binary. Okay, so it's either cheap or expensive. It's a yes or it's a no. I'm in or I'm out. I'll buy your products or I'm not going to buy your products. Okay, but the reality is, if you look at most industries, there's somebody who is the cheapest, there is somebody who is the most expensive, and there's all these people who are pricing their products who sit in the middle of it. Okay, so with those three different ways to charge for your products, you can be the cheapest if you think that's the way to attract clients in, but like that, you're basically offering a discount and there's no profitability in that. So we don't necessarily want to be the cheapest. Most people don't want to be perceived as the most expensive in their marketplace because they think that puts people off buying from them. And I'm going to come back to that in a second. So most people kind of position themselves in the middle, but we have this bandwidth of lots of different prices, in your industry that people will be charging. So at the left-hand side of the scale, we have commodities. Okay, so these are, and I'm using examples here from sort of the coaching space, which is obviously what I'm kind of most familiar with. In the commoditized space, you've got all these cheap, free DIY courses. There's no real sort of one-to-one touch points in there, even on group programs. Like, you can't price a group program for this because it's just not, you'd have to have such a high volume in order to achieve your goals. But this is why it's like much more in the DIY end of the spectrum. And think about like even YouTube at the very far end of the spectrum is, so long as you know what to put into Google, you can find any amount of education you want or any amount of coaching you want on there. You've just got to know what to put in. The red line, which you can see here, is the volume of competition. So at the cheaper commoditized end of the competition, that's where the most amount of commoditized end of the bandwidth, that's where the most competition sits. Okay, there's just tons of people. It's a very noisy space, very difficult to cut through. This is where a lot of our clients kind of sit before they work with us. So they're in that value exchange, time for money, basically. So this is where they're offering some kind of a service. It's at a fixed price. It's very, how long is it going to take? And like with hourly rate stuff, it's like every time I used to sell an hour of my time in my agency, it was a bit like I was selling a piece of my soul to that person who bought it, never to be seen again. I'd never get it back. So hourly rate just doesn't work. I mean, it's functional to a point, but if you want to shift your business into the next level and make more money, you're going to have to change your model and stop selling time for money. Okay, but you can start to see there's less competition here because these tend to be like, they're good people. They're good at what they do. They get great results, but they haven't kind of dug deep in terms of like fixing their confidence around pricing or packaging up what they're doing yet. This is my favorite one. This is pricing yourself based on results and outcomes. Okay, so think about, as a service, virtual assistants. Okay, so you can pay anywhere, get virtual assistants all around the globe. You can pay anywhere between like $5 an hour up to $50 an hour, even $100 an hour in some places. But most VAs, most virtual assistants are, again, jack of all trades, master at none. They'll do your inbox. They'll do all sorts of, they'll take your phone calls. They'll book people. They'll book your meetings. They'll manage your diary. They'll write blog articles. So they kind of do all of these itty bitty tasks, the $10 an hour type tasks within a business. When you identify your market niche, who is your ideal client? I'm slowing right down now because this is really important. When you identify your ideal client, when you have carved out a really specific product niche that it solves one specific problem in the market, you're in a winning position. So I did some work with a VA who was just really struggling, used up all of her hours, just struggling to pay her bills still, despite working sort of 150, 200 hours a month, most months. The bit she really enjoyed was actually around podcasting. So she loved listening to podcasts. She got really inspired by podcasts, how we met in the first place. And I said to her, well, listen, if you worked with business coaches to find suitable podcasts for them to guest on, you could create a package out of it. So you could sell like a 10-pack of podcasts to a coach over the course of a month, 2 months, like a 60, 90-day program. Because I know the value of like guesting on a podcast. So I said you could sell a pack of 10 for like £1,000. So, and she's like, oh, that seems like a rather lot of money, because I don't think it would take me that long to get people booked on. So we created a system. It took her on average an hour per podcast to get booked. So by the time you've whittled down the ones that said yes, the ones that said maybe, the ones that said no, the follow-up, the actual booking process, it would take about an hour on average once we'd set the systems up. So now all of a sudden she's elevated herself to £100 an hour, whereas most people in the market are charging 10, 20, 30 pounds an hour. So she's, at the very least, tripled the going rate. Really clearly defined target market, really clearly defined product niche in podcasts, finding podcasts, and therefore you can command a price niche. You can be the most expensive VA in the market. So, and these are what we call transformation experts. They're going to take you from here to here with a really clearly defined pathway, like really clearly defined route that's going to get you there. And as a result, you can charge a lot of money for it. You also have these people, and I've done it in Bunny Ears, gurus, who sit in that transformation outcomes sort of space. These are the people who are typically, and this is where I was talking about the 3 different ways of charging: be the cheapest, be in the middle, be the most expensive. The ones who are the most expensive typically have been in the market for the longest. So they've got the best reputation, the most number of Google reviews, the most number of case studies, testimonials, recommendations on LinkedIn. They have a proven track record. They get loads of word of mouth referrals. There's all this good stuff which they've got. So they are the true gurus in their industry. But the clue here is that they can charge ridiculous sums of money and they still get clients. Okay. And if they can do it, we can sure as hell do that too. Okay. And then right down at the far end of the spectrum, you've got there's only one Tony Robbins. Okay. So he charges $1 million a year if you want to work with him. I think it's more than that now on a one-to-one basis. Tony Robbins only needs 10 one-to-one clients. And he's got £10 million a year business just on the coaching side of it. I mean, with all of the stuff Tony Robbins does, he's got a multi-hundreds of millions of dollars a year business. It's quite epic. I don't necessarily like some of the stuff that he does, but I have to appreciate and respect what he's done from a business perspective. It's absolutely remarkable, But what you notice here is the more expensive you are, the less competition there is, until you get to a point where you are the only one in the marketplace that people want to work with. Okay, so very few. The other thing as well is this is where we get into the mindset side of pricing, and kind of looping back to the start. I did some work with a business that used to sell and install sheds, garden sheds, basically, the sort of thing you put in the end of your garden, put your bike and your lawnmower. And they were selling these one a month. So each month they were selling a shed for £450. It would make about £100 net profit, and each shed took a day to build. So selling 30 sheds a month. And we got into this conversation about, well, why don't you build garden studios, sort of thing I'm in, cedar cladding and bifold doors and all this sort of stuff. And we worked out the average price, and we did look at the competition, but we're let's see if we can. We eventually ended up charging a lot more than the competition. But to start with, we looked at how much they'd be comfortable charging. So £15,000. It made one of these made the same amount of money, but it made 50% more profit than 30 sheds. And it took a third of the time to build as 30 sheds. So I was like, why aren't you selling selling garden rooms? And their answer, it was remarkable. They said, because we bought a shed business. So up here, they created this belief in themselves that they could only ever sell sheds, and that was all their customers were interested in. It's we've never gone out and pitched these. So how do you know if people don't want it or not? The other thing as well was when you change the goalpost to selling 30 of these, one a day, it's like Pavlov's dog, a happy bell in their head rang every day they sold a shed. Sell a shed, ding, sell a shed, ding, sell a shed, ding. Now imagine having to wait 30 days. If the goal was just to sell one garden studio each month, and whether you sold it on day 1 or day 30, it's the same result. But imagine having to wait 30 days to get that result, that sale, ding, big sell, but 30 days of worry because you've got to pay the tax man, you've got to pay your employees and things like that. So for them, it's a big shift. They had to get their heads around that they were going to sell far fewer of these, but they would make much more money when they did. And actually, we ended up elevating the average price to about 25K. The net profit, we managed to get up to about 9K, so double that for each one of these. And we managed to get the build process down to 5 days because they use these special insulated panels. So there we go. I'm not going to do this last little exercise, but just to take you through the 3 steps around sort of how to increase your prices. First of all, you've just got to be in the right mindset. You've got to have confidence in your ability to deliver a really substantial outcome for your clients. But you have to have a belief that I could put my prices up. You have to see the possibility I could put my prices up and people will buy it, okay? We don't have to have actually sold anything yet. We've just got to have the belief, the mindset that we could sell it for more. Second step is we go out and validate it. So if we put our prices up, now go and find 10 people to pitch to and see how many say yes. Okay. Guaranteed clients like buses, it will be clients like 8, 9, and 10 that say yes. So you've got to get through some no's first, but you will sell something at a higher price point. And the reality is, final step, that just takes time. Okay. So we've seen people go through our process in about 4 to 6 weeks, which is a damn, it's actually relatively quick, and double or treble their existing prices. Okay. So you can all do that too. Remember, we suffer much more in imagination than reality. And then I'll finish up here with just a reminder. If you want a copy of the slides, you can go and grab those from fearless.biz/gifts. I'm sure Stefan will upload them into Titanology, into the community group as well. I'll make sure you get the PDF of those. And also you can grab hold of because my Weather Girl impression, a copy of Take Your Shots, just over my left shoulder here, either the PDF or the paperback of that as well. So there we go.
Awesome.
It's
awesome.
a wrap. I'm done.
Awesome stuff. Yeah, I think there's a lot of topics here that we can go even deeper in. But the main thing is really that people need to know that the current situation where they're in, and that it can change for the better for them. It's really about thinking outside of the box indeed, and not getting stuck in the same way that you've been doing it for years now, right?
That's it. Absolutely. 100%. I tell you what, Stefan, there's a couple of things that we can quickly sort of go through at the end here, which I think will be quite transformational for people. Should we switch the slides off and just go back to sort of the two of us on the screen for a moment?
Absolutely.
We can reshare the gifts, the link a bit later. So one of the most common questions I get asked is like, how do I go about increasing my prices? Okay, so I kind of talked through a lot of the theory there, but in practice, it can be, it can be harder to work out, like to go through the process. So I'll try and break it down in like 4 very simple steps. Okay, so we'll stick with the web design analogy. So step 1 is, what are you currently charging for your service? So it like I said, if we take, Dave in my story that I told, the £50 an hour times it by 20 hours, well, he's selling it for £1,000. Now, most people will, when they get into a pitch, a sales situation, will sell hours because it's easier and the numbers are smaller. So step 1 isn't about charging loads more. We actually just want to start selling packages. So it's a really subtle shift. So we're going to sell it for £1,000, which is no different to what we were selling it at before. But we need to get comfortable when somebody says how much, the investment for our websites are just £1,000. Yep. So get used to saying big numbers. And then once you've kind of desensitized yourself to kind of pitching those big numbers, you can then start to then think about going through the gears in terms of pricing. And we have quite a lot of fun with this. So you've been on the receiving end of this, Stefan, you've watched a number of fearless clients go through this. So we then, next step is we then do an auction. Okay. So I know that like we could lay it down and say, well, actually we could charge £1,000. There are people charging £10,000. So we've got this bandwidth. 10K is too much, but I know I should charge more. So we know that we're going to hit somewhere in the middle of that. Okay. In that pricing bandwidth. So I would then just start increasing the prices. We'd be like £1,200, £1,500, £1,800, £2,500. And then you see their body language shift. We've just stepped outside their comfort zone. Okay. So somewhere between 1,800 is just inside their comfort zone. 2,500 is just outside their comfort zone. Well, what we want to do is pitch just outside. So we go at 2,500 and we then seek validation, pitch the next 10 people at that elevated price point. And it's remarkable how many times people then just come back to me and say, oh my gosh, Robin, somebody said yes. I can't believe how easy that was. It's all about belief. It's all about like self-belief, confidence in your ability to deliver. Am I really worth 2.5K?
Yeah, it's a perception about the value that you're offering. And most of the times we're just wrong at how much value we're actually delivering for the people. And a great exercise that I use a lot is, and what you have said as well, hell if you don't, what is the price of not doing your service or not buying something from you? What will they lose, And if they make a quick calculation, then they come to the realization like, wait a minute, even that uncomfortable price is still not a lot. if you compare it to what they can gain from it. And if you do that kind of exercise, then it becomes more realistic. But it can change their mind in terms of pricing. So yeah, it definitely is a big one.
Absolutely, and it's a very sort of quick process as well. And the nice thing as well is when you then validate at a higher price point that quickly, because I think about most business owners, they will, you ask them about how they chose their prices, and if they're putting them up, they'll say, oh yeah, I might put them up next year, and I might put them up 5 or 10%, right? And it's like we've already established that most businesses are only pushing like 10, 20, maybe 30% net profit if they're lucky. So you only put your prices up by 5%. You're not really pushing it, like dialing the needle, like pushing the needle across that much. It just doesn't really make much of an impact. And if you're only doing it once a year, you build up all of this fear around that one moment in time when you're going to put your prices up, and then you do it and it's like, oh, well, actually it wasn't that bad. So it's like, that's why it's really important that you increase the velocity of how often you're putting your prices up. Like, don't get me wrong, put them up by 10%, but why don't you put them up by 10% 3 times a year? Not once, but 3 times or 10 times a year. Put them up every month if you can, but keep on testing and validating at different price points.
Yeah, and it's like what you said as well. Every new customer that you get, they didn't even know the previous prices anyway, as long as they're not on your website, of course. So yeah, why not, you know? And you know that you can bring the value. So it makes sense to try it out and to validate that. Yeah.
100%, absolutely.
Awesome. So no more questions right now, but we will come back to this later for sure. So anybody who's watching this recording as well, if you have more questions for Robin, just put them in comments. We also have our live Q&A session every Thursday. That's tomorrow. If you have more questions about this as well, just ask them to me and I will ask them to Robin. And you have also the masterclass from Robin in Titanology as well. So there's a lot of stuff there from Robin. And if you want to reach out to Robin, well, there's always his website. So I'm going to show this again. This one right here. If you want some gifts, go right ahead and go here. And this will bring you to the right place. So yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you again, Robin, for your time, for your knowledge. And we will talk soon again.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Stefan.
See you later. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye.